If you feel like you're losing points up at the non-volley zone, these are the most important things that I've learned over the years that will help you completely transform your game. You're definitely going to want to stick around to the end because the last one will surprise you. The first thing that we really want to think about is aiming more towards that kitchen line to apply as much pressure as possible. As I'm dinking, yes, I do want to move my opponent, make them move their feet, but the big thing is I really want to force that low contact near his feet and have him make that decision if he has to volley the ball in the air or step back and take it off the bounce. Before we dive deeper into actually applying more pressure at the line, I kind of want to show you what happens at lower levels or with players that don't have really aggressive dinks. If I constantly let the ball bounce kind of in that middle of that non-volley zone, Grayson's going to be able to put a lot of pressure on me with topspin and his push dinks, and now I'm going to be on the defense every time. So in this rally, Grayson, you're going to be moving me around. I'm going to try to kind of show the viewers here what happens when I hit really short dinks, okay? Okay, all right. So hopefully you can see that, but the shorter and higher that apex is, Grayson, can create that space and he can use his topspin rolls to really dictate the point. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make sure that I kind of push my balls closer to his feet, closer to that non-volley zone line. So now that he has to actually maybe take some out of the air, or maybe he has to step back on his dink, okay? So here we go. Okay, so if you see that, the rally is much more neutral, or maybe there I was on offense a lot of the times because now Grayson actually has to step back and make a lot of decisions. And because I'm actually hitting closer to that line, he doesn't have a lot of room to create, right? When I'm setting the ball in front of him like that, he has room, he has time to create and kind of put any pressure that he wants on me here at the non-volley zone. The second thing that you really want to be able to do in your game is lean in at the right times and take those volley dinks, taking those balls out of the air so that you can take time away from your opponent. All right, so there's a lot of times where I see players letting opportunities pass by where they could have maybe taken a dink out of the air, but they're letting the ball bounce. So it kind of looks like this. So Grayson's going to be kind of hitting more at my feet. And if I don't take those opportunities out of the air, I'm always going to be kind of pushed back here in a defensive position. So what I want to do instead is I want to look to take the ball out of the air first, and it has a lot to do with my posture and my mindset, okay? So if I'm kind of just standing straight up here like this, and my paddle is kind of like right next to me like this, I'm not really in a good position to take balls out of the air. So what I want to do is kind of get in a lower stance, extend my paddle out a little bit more, and from this position, I'm ready for a counter, and also I can kind of just lean in and see if I can reach these balls. So this is what that looks like. We're gonna play a little bit of a dink rally here. Okay, out of the air, out of the air. Okay, now, even though I may not be able to take every single ball out of the air, I'm putting myself in a position so that I can be really intentional to find those balls, okay? So my mindset is always taking the ball out of the air first, and then if not, then I'm gonna adjust my feet back. The other thing that I really wanna mention that almost no one talks about is the quality of my previous ball will kind of show whether or not I may be able to lean in. So if I hit something more like a dead dink, what we just talked about. So let's say, Grayson, you hit me a ball, and then I hit more of a dead dink. He's probably gonna be really aggressive on the next one, or might be able to speed up. Maybe on that ball, I don't wanna be aggressively leaning in like this. I wanna be more neutral. But let's say I actually have a shot where I can be aggressive and I'm rolling a shot with topspin and moving him out. In a position where he's off the line or something like that, and he has his paddle face open, those are opportunities that I can actually be leaning in aggressively, trying to find something out of the air. So let's see a couple of those examples. Here we go. Okay. So when I know my opponent is having to shuffle off the line, they're either short hopping or they're moving their feet and they have their paddle face more open, I know that they're probably not going to be attacking and they're going to have to hit some sort of lift or slice dink. These are good situations when I see that kind of body position and that paddle position as it's open. These are times where I really want to do a good job staying low, leaning forward and having my paddle out in my extended ready position so that I can try to find something offensive to work with. Quick break from the video. If you're really enjoying this content, YouTube says that 65% of you are not subscribed to this channel. I really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button. Also, if you're interested in improving your attacking game, we made a free video for you. You can click the description below or scan the QR code. All right, so now that we talked about what we should be doing with our posture when we are hitting good dinks, and now we're taking time away from our opponent by taking volley dinks, now let's specifically talk about exactly what your volley dinks should be accomplishing, because here is where I see a lot of players go wrong. And even though they are at the advantage, they hit shots that actually cause them to be at the disadvantage on the very next shot. So when I'm in an opportunity to actually lean in and take the ball as a volley dink out of the air, it's really important and essential that I get that ball to bounce, A, and B, I get them to actually move their feet. Why this is really important is I want to take time away and I want to utilize my strong positioning up here so that I can be in an even stronger position on the next shot. So what I see a lot of players doing on their volley dinks is they usually end up hitting their volley dinks way too far and they send it right back to their opponent's paddle. And what happens is now they're taking time away from us and they're moving us instead of us being in a very advantageous position, taking time away. So I'm gonna show you kind of what I see a lot. Grayson is going to hit me a dink that I could volley, and then I'm going to hit it right back to him and he's going to dictate with his dink volley. This is kind of what I see a lot of players do. Okay. Okay, so in those examples, you saw me actually, doing a good job leaning in, and I'm in a good position to hit that dink volley, but what happens is I put it back to his paddle, and then now he's moving me. So what I really wanna do is A, like I said, number one, I have to make the ball bounce. So I have to actually aim my volley dink inside that non-volley zone line generally. And B, I really want to make them move their feet. So I not only want to get it in the non-volley zone, but I want to get it either closer to that center line or to the sideline. So now in this scenario, Grayson's going to hit me a ball, but instead of me putting it back at his paddle, I'm going to do a good job moving him on my volley dink. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so hopefully you saw in those examples, now when I'm actually leaning in, I'm taking the time away and I'm not just giving it right back to his paddle, right? I'm making him move so that he's more in a defensive position and I can stay on the offense. Now that we know how to lean in at the right times, take time away, and exactly what to do with our volley dinks, now we're really applying a lot of pressure on our opponents. So if you're doing this well, you're going to find yourself actually create yourself a lot of dead dinks from your opponent's paddle. And when I get balls that kind of have a higher apex and they're landing in that non-volley zone, these are opportunities that I need to really take advantage of. So whenever I create that opportunity and I get that dead dink and I'm getting these higher apex balls that land in this non-volley zone, I really have a few options that I can choose to apply maximum pressure on my next shot. The first one is hitting topspin dinks to the feet. So whether I'm receiving forehands or backhands and the dinks are kind of dead, I really want to push my dinks with topspin towards that line to maybe cause a short hop so that they're hitting the ball really low, or I'm causing my opponent to really shuffle off the line. The second thing I can do, instead of using topspin dinks to roll my opponent out wide or to make them short hop or half volley the ball is I can actually speed up. These are opportunities now. I have that dead dink. There's not a ton of pace on it or spin. And now I can actually control my speed ups and really pick a good spot on my opponent so that I can gain advantage with a speed up. The next thing that I want to go over is when your opponents are hitting offensive dinks to you. There are going to be times where you're in control and you're rolling or you're taking time away, but there's also going to be times where your opponent is doing that to you and they are hitting you pressure dinks near that non-volley zone line, either moving you back or forcing you to take low dink volleys. So it's really important here that if I can't take the ball out of the air, I really want to make sure I take this adjustment step where I'm taking a drop step back possibly, or I'm shuffling off of the line with both feet to make sure that I'm creating space to get that contact point out in front so that I can actually neutralize that dink and try to get back into kind of a neutral playing field. So here we're going to play a dink rally. Grayson's going to kind of hit me some pretty aggressive dinks. And if I don't take that volley, I'm always going to try to do that first. But if I don't do that, I'm going to make sure that I try to create space, as much space as I can, so that I can still keep my contact out in front. Okay, so here we go, Grayson. You're going to try to be as aggressive as you can on your dinks. Here we go. Okay, so there was a couple there that I really had to shuffle for. And again, it's really tough if I don't take the volley dinks that I should be taking out of the air. That's why I always got to think about that first. But if I can't get that, now I really have to work really hard to make sure that I move my feet, especially when the ball is coming kind of wide. We're going to show you one more example here. Okay, so you saw in that rally, there was a few times I really couldn't have a high dink volley contact. I had to shuffle off the line. And then right after that, you also notice that I come straight back up to that non-volley zone so that I can try to take that next dink volley out of the air. I think that this is a really important tip that people miss. They don't recover after they are forced to create space on the way back. So again, to reiterate, whether it's the forehand or that backhand side, if I have to shuffle back, create space for good contact, I really want to make sure I get right back up at that line and try to take that next ball in the air so that I can try to gain advantage again. The last thing that we need to talk about is shading, court positioning, and that recovery. Okay, a lot of times you will be seeing cross-court dinks or maybe dinking cross-court. So we need to make sure that we're actually closing that middle, covering that middle when that ball is on our opponent's side of the court. So let's say I'm on this right side here, Grayson's on the left, and we have each our partners on the left of us. But if I hit that dink cross court, especially if I'm rolling it with topspin or I'm hitting really close to that sideline over there, I really gotta make sure that I help my partner out in the middle, because when that ball's in the corner, my partner is going to be covering their line, and I have to make sure that I'm covering middle with my backhand here. On the flip side, you're going to see the same thing true as well. If Grayson hits me a really good dink, especially if I'm in more of a defensive position and my contact is outside of my outside knee, you're going to see Grayson really aggressive with his positioning, because most likely the ball I'm going to be hitting is going to be coming through the middle or more in front of his partner. So you can just practice this with the partner, make sure you're shifting over, especially if you're the one that's pulling the ball wide. But we're gonna go through a couple of dink rallies here, and hopefully you can see, especially when that ball is angled extremely close to that sideline, we're shifting over. Good, okay. So hopefully you saw there a few times Grayson actually pulled me out in a defensive position. He's covering middle. And then there was a couple times there where I kind of regained that neutrality in that dink. And then now I can roll it out and you see me on the very next ball leaning middle. Okay, this is really important because it really protects your partner and puts you in more an offensive position here up at the non-volley zone line.